Word. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. We don't usually have it this early, but we got special access. My name is Siobhan Barber, and I'm the marketing director at Welcome MD. If you are new to Welcome MD, I just wanted to take 30 seconds to give you our little pitch. We are a concierge medical practice in Richmond, Virginia. We also have a practice in Charlotte, North Carolina, and one in Mooresville, North Carolina. Our physicians see half the number of patients per doctor as many other concierge practices while accessing new cutting-edge treatments, and we emphasize greater access to your physician, more personal attention, and improved health outcomes. But today, we are fortunate to have once again Bryan Gay with us before Medicare open enrollment begins on October 15th. So we like to provide this webinar for our members and their friends to help guide you through the many complicated Medicare options. Bryan is the owner of Boomer Insurance Group, which is a boutique agency specializing in expert Medicare insurance advice. For 24 years, Bryan has assisted clients to easily understand complex insurance topics. He often speaks at hospitals, seminars, Medicare educational events, and financial planning seminars. And he's on several leadership councils for the industry's largest Medicare insurance companies, influencing the benefits of Medicare insurance plans. If you have any questions for Bryan throughout the program, please feel free to submit them. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a chat feature. You can type in your question into the chat, and I'll feed those questions to Bryan. And of course, we will have some time at the end for a Q&A, and you can ask questions there as well. I am recording this session, so if you have to leave or if you find it to be useful for someone you know in the future, I'll send out a link to the recording that we'll post on YouTube in our next newsletter. And now I will kick it over to Bryan.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Savannah. I appreciate it. Well, then I'm just going to jump right in and kind of get started with a lot of these things. I always kind of joke a little bit because I have to joke some because this is governmental health insurance and it can be very boring if you don't have some kind of humor or just get a little loopy after 24 years of doing the same thing. But so, guys, a couple little housekeeping things is I always tell people I'm originally from Oklahoma. So if you ever hear some poor grammar skills, it's because I'm from Oklahoma originally. I live in the Richmond, Virginia area with my wife now. And I always continue on that with I was raised by my grandparents, right? So my parents passed away when I was 6 months old. So my grandmother at age 68 took all four of us kids. So I was 6 months old, so I was the favorite. And then there was my brother who was 3, my sister who was 10, and my oldest sister who was 13. So if you can imagine getting a 13-year-old girl, a 10-year-old girl, a 3-year-old boy, toddler, and a 6-month-old infant at the ripe age of 68, you're probably pretty tired in general. You know? But by the time I was 2 and walking, she was 70, and she lived till she was 101 and a half. So the only people I've ever known growing up were in their 70s and 80s and 90s, and not everybody gets to be 100 plus. But it was kind of funny how I kind of happened into this industry a little over 2 decades ago. So it's just kind of funny. I've just always been around these type people. If I ever slip up and you guys hear me call people youngins or kids, my version is different than most other people's versions of youngins and kids. We call the kids the 65 to 75-year-olds around my office because the kids of our original clients are turning 65 and 66 and 67 and they're retiring and they're calling us and saying we've helped their parents kind of with their Medicare plans and it's time for them. So that's a little bit about our background. The company is called Boomer Insurance Group. We do help people in a number of states, mostly Virginia and North Carolina, but we do from Maryland all the way to Florida. So Maryland, DC, Virginia, North and South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida is who we primarily help. If you guys have any friends or family in other states, we can always give you guys resources for an agent in that area who does what we do. But the company, Boomer Insurance Group, the only single thing we deal with is Medicare insurance. So we don't do car insurance, we don't do life insurance, it's just Medicare. And we do all the different plans. So that's why when people ask certain questions about certain plans, I'd be able to answer those because this is the only thing we deal with. And like Siobhan said, if you do have questions, just type them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen or the little chat box, and we'll cover all those questions at the end, just to kind of keep it consistent. So we're going to pull up what everybody's favorite thing is a PowerPoint presentation. And then we're going to get into that. Oh, and if you guys are taking notes, for the note takers out there, what you'll definitely want to do is you want 2 clean sheets of paper, because we're going to go over the 2 main options with Medicare. Because at the end of the day, you only have 2 choices. Really, you have to choose between option number 1 or option number 2 with Medicare. That's really it. And speaking of those options that we are going to talk about, let's talk about things we are not going to talk about today. We're not going to talk about things that very small portions of the population have access to. Like, for instance, the federal employees health plan. Well, you have to work for the federal government for years and years and years to get the FEHB, the Federal Employees Health Benefit Plan, right? So not everybody worked for the federal government, so we're not going to talk about that. Not everybody worked in the military for 20 plus years. Well, those people get something called TRICARE for life. We're not going to talk about that. Some people retired from the Commonwealth of Virginia. The Commonwealth of Virginia gives their retirees an overpriced plan that nobody buys if they're good at math. But the state of North Carolina has a pretty good retiree plan for those state retirees. So we're not going to talk about state retiree plans either. If people have questions, please put it in your box, in the box down there. We'll answer those questions later. But today is mainly just the 2 publicly options that are available. All right. Now, just signing up for Medicare can get very complicated. So if you guys are about to be turning 65, you're going to start hearing all these things about penalties this and penalties that, and how you have to sign up for Medicare. And if you don't sign up for Medicare, you're going to be penalized for the rest of your life. Yeah. Have you guys ever heard the saying, darned if you do and darned if you don't? Right, I'm trying to clean it up. Well, that's really Medicare. Darned if you do and darned if you don't, right? Because if you don't sign up for Medicare when you're supposed to sign up for Medicare, you actually get penalized. It's true. If you don't do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, you actually get penalized later. But what if you do sign up and you should not sign up? For the people who actually signed up for Medicare at age 65 and they should have not signed up for Medicare at 65, those people can also get penalized for signing up when they should have not signed up at 65. So it's one of those things you got to know for your specific situation, should you be signing up for Medicare? Not your neighbor, not your sister, not your friend, not your coworker, even people who work for the same company have different situations. So not everybody needs to sign up for Medicare at age 65. But when it's time to sign up for Medicare and get these Medicare plans, well, then you're going to have these 2 choices, right? So let's talk about those 2 choices. Now, so sharpen your pencil. So everything that comes up on the screen, I'm going to have you guys write down. And because most of my family are engineers, I'm kind of particular, right? My wife has a different word for my particularness, but I would tell you, you're going to want to write the things that come up on the screen exactly the way they come up on the screen. If you're going to want to write notes anywhere else, do them somewhere else. Put it on a second scratch piece of paper. But it's nice to have one sheet of paper that's clean and easy to read, and a second sheet of paper that's clean and easy to read, so you can refer back to them later. Okay. So if you see on your screen, it says option number 1. Well, I did warn you, I'm from Oklahoma originally. So we have analogies where I grew up for everything. So we always tell people option 1's kind of like a car, right? You can see the word car popped up in quotation marks. Well, everybody knows how a car works. So it's an easy analogy, right? Because nobody buys a car to save money. They're a terrible investment. We buy a car because we want to go where we want to go, when we want to go, for whatever we wanted to go there for. We get the cars because we want to have convenience and choices. Well, that's how option number one with Medicare works, right? You can go to whatever doctor, whatever hospital, whatever specialist. If you need to go to the Mayo Clinic or Johns Hopkins, you can go with option number one. Because with option one, remember, you're driving. Any physician, any hospital system in America, as long as they just bill Medicare, you can go there, no questions asked and no problems, right? So that's why I say it's like the car. It's not designed to save money, but it is designed for freedom and flexibility. Now, you wind up with these three separate ID cards, right? So we have to go through these three ID cards. Well, the first ID card is going to be the Medicare ID card. You guys will always hear it as called the red, white, and blue Medicare card. The old red, white, and blue Medicare card. Original Medicare is what this is called. The reason it's red, white, and blue, it's the only thing that deals with the government. Everything else we're going to talk about is private insurance. This is government. So Medicare has these two parts. Do not have to write this down right now. But Medicare has two parts, Part A and Part B, like apple and bananas. Part A is insurance that you or your spouse has been prepaying for your entire life. So when you do sign up for Medicare later, you don't have to pay for it as long as you or your spouse has worked for 10 years. They call it 40 quarters, but it's 10 years, right? And if you've got that kind of work history, or your spouse has got that kind of work history, you don't have to pay anything else for Part A. It's considered paid up. But that's paying for Part A. What it covers is inpatient medical claims. Most people say the hospital. Okay, yeah, the hospital is covered under Part A. But so is inpatient rehab. So is hospice coverage. So there's quite a number of other things that go under Part A, but that's pretty much inpatient medical claims. And Medicare basically pays 80% of those services for hospitalization and inpatient claims. All right. Well, then there's Part B, as in banana. This is for outpatient medical claims. So doctor visits, emergency rooms. We just had one of our clients get helicoptered from like kind of the Chesapeake Bay to VCU Medical down here in Richmond. So that's what Part B covers. Part B covers outpatient medical claims. Now, you have not prepaid for Part B, so you would have to start paying for Part B when the time comes. All right, now if you notice what popped up on the screen, it says $185. So that's the Medicare Part B monthly payment. That is this year. So if anybody's ever listening to this webinar or podcast, whatever things is later, this year is 2025. So in 2025, the monthly payment for Medicare is $185. That usually comes out of people's Social Security checks, because most of the time people get on Medicare, then they'll eventually get Social Security income, and out of their Social Security check, Medicare takes at least $185. But so many people, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. So we hear people in their 80s and 90s tell their friends, I don't pay anything for Medicare. Yes, they do. It's just coming out of their Social Security check and they forgot about it. All right. So that's the base rate. Everybody's got to pay the $185. But then there's people who do well financially. Now, if people do well financially, not only do they have to pay more in taxes, but they have to pay more for their Medicare insurance. This increase is called the income related monthly adjusted amount, IRMAA. We call it IRMA because it's a lot easier to say, IRMA, right? Now, IRMA is this extortionary, ridiculous charge that the government charges people who've done well financially. And when I mean financially, as an individual tax filer, if you made 106,000 or more, you'd have to pay an additional fee on top of $185. If you're a married couple filing jointly and you and your spouse make $212,000 or more per year, well, you also get this extortionary letter that says you have to pay an additional fee above and beyond the base rate. And the higher the income, the higher the fee for this income related adjustment. So people who are making quite a bit of money, like $750,000 and above, they're paying almost $800 a month just for Medicare. Also why that's kind of ridiculous, but here we are. So that pays for Medicare, right? So we prepaid for Part A, now we've paid for Part B, and now we have Medicare. Well, how's it work? Well, it works like this. Look on your screen. Medicare pays 80% after I pay my Medicare medical annual deductible of $257. All right. The deductible is a calendar year deductible. The government changes this deductible. Last year, the deductible was $240. This year, the deductible is $257. So you're kind of on your own, right? You go to the doctors, you go to the physical therapist, you go to a counselor, you go to a heart doctor, but you're on your own. You got to pay 100% of the first $257. After that, Medicare is going to pay 80% of your doctor bills and 80% of your hospital bills and 80% of the surgery bill. It's going to cover 80%. But it's still leaving you hanging for 20%. So you have to pay all the 20%. And I can tell you that helicopter ride was about $90,000 from one of our current clients. Nobody wants to pay 20% of a $90,000 cost helicopter ride. So we get these things called Medicare supplements, right? You see that ID card. This would be your second ID card. Is the proper terminology is Medicare supplement. Now, to confuse people, they name everything twice. A Medicare supplement is also called Medigap. If you notice, that just popped up on the screen there inside the Medicare ID card, the supplement ID card. So Medigap and Medicare supplement, same thing. I will always refer to them as Medicare supplements because that's the proper terminology. These are done by insurance companies. So you get a Humana Medicare supplement or an Anthem Medicare supplement or a United Healthcare Medicare supplement. Well, in Virginia and most of North Carolina, by the way, if that's where most of our people are here, then they're around $145 a month for a 65-year-old person. Now, this is an approximation. Might be 130, might be 150, but it's about $145 a month for a 65-year-old person in these states. Now, they go up in price a little bit every year. So don't be alarmed, but if you get to 90 years old, you're not going to be paying $140 a month. It's going to be more like $240 a month by then. So they go up a little bit every year. Keep that in mind. Well, now that we donated money every month to an insurance company for our supplement plan, how does the supplement work? Like, what does it actually do? Well, look at this. The supplement's going to pay all the remaining 20%. Well, again, I'm just kind of a slow kid from Oklahoma, but if somebody's paying 20% of your medical bills and somebody else is paying 80% of your medical bills, that's 100%. So if you have any older friends or family and they say things like, I don't pay for nothing, I don't pay for anything, I just had this knee surgery and I didn't pay for the surgery, I didn't pay for the physical therapy, I didn't pay for the CT, the MRI, I didn't pay for any of that stuff. They're paying at least $185 a month for Medicare, at least $145 a month for a supplement plan. They already met their deductible that they forgot about. But yeah, okay. The rest of the year, they're not paying anything to go to doctors or hospitals or have surgeries or things like that. So it's great coverage, but it's not cheap. And it doesn't cover prescriptions. And if you hang around Medicare long enough, you normally start taking prescriptions. So you're going to need to get something called a Part D drug plan. So you can see this ID card that just popped up here, Part D drug plan. Well, the letter D stands for drugs. So always think about that. Part D is drug coverage. Now, this year in Virginia, there are 14 available drug plans. Next year, in 2026, there's only 9 available drug plans. The drug plans people choose are dependent on the prescriptions they're currently using. But they get an insurance company drug plan, like an Aetna drug plan or a Humana Part D drug plan or a Mutual of Omaha Part D drug plan, right? So you got to pay for them. And the national average is about $35 a month. So if you want to jot that down, you can put an ish next to $35. So $35 ish for a drug plan. Like Humana has a drug plan for $16 right now. Anthem has a drug plan for $56 right now. So the average is about $35. In Virginia and North Carolina, most people get a drug plan that's $5 to $10 most of the time. So that's what you'd pay for your insurance for the drug plan. But if you do well financially, well, your friend Irma, she shows back up here again. So you'd have to pay this extortionary income related fee to the government just because you purchased a drug plan, which you're kind of required to anyways. I know it's ridiculous, but that's the way it is. So you'd pay this additional fee. We got clients calling us all the time saying, Bryan, I feel like we're getting double charged. Like I see this bill from Humana for $16 a month for my drug plan, but I see this other fee for like $33 for drug plans. Like I feel like I'm getting double charged. And I'm like, well, you know why you feel that way? It's because you are getting double charged. You pay Humana the $16 because everybody who has that Humana plan would pay $16. But you have to pay the government that extra $30 or $50 or $80, depending on your income, if your income's high, which is ridiculous. But here we are. All right. Well, now that we're paying for this drug plan, how does it work? Guys, it works like any other insurance. You're going to have copays for prescriptions, and those copays for prescriptions are going to depend on the tier the drug is in the pharmacy that you go to. So I'll have you jot that down real quick. Copays for prescriptions vary depending on the drug tier in the pharmacy I go to. Well, if people are taking these low-cost generic prescriptions, like most of us take, like levothyroxine or lisinopril or amlodipine or metoprolol or rosuvastatin or allopurinol, these prescriptions are low-cost generic drugs, so they might cost nothing. Like they might actually be free, or they might be $1 or $2. Now, when you start getting into these more expensive drugs like Ozempic or Mounjaro or Eliquis or Xarelto or Restasis or Humira, those are name brand drugs. They're much more expensive, so the copay is much more expensive. So just keep that in mind. If you can take low-cost generic drugs and work for you, do it that way. It'll save you money. But if your body chemistry just doesn't work well for those generics and you have to take the name brand, it kind of is what it is, and you just have to pay the higher price for the name brand prescriptions. But that's it. That's option number one. That's how it works. You have these 3 ID cards. You go anywhere you want to go. You're completely covered for doctors and hospitals after you met the $257 deductible. And the rest of the year, you just pay copays for drugs. But if you notice, you're paying $145 for a supplement and at least and another $35 for a drug plan. And that's above what you got to pay for Medicare. So not everybody can do this or even wants to do option number one. So they got to do something else, which is option number 2. So flip your page over or start a new paper They should be separate so you can look at them side by side later. There is nothing wrong with option number two. It does exactly what it is supposed to do for people. And option number two's primary purpose is to save people as much money as possible. And most, I didn't say all, I said most of the time, it would save people money if they chose option number two. But it's not like a car, right? It's more like the bus, right? So I'm going to write the word bus, like a metro transit bus system. Now, if you jump on the bus, you only have to show one ID card. You don't show your Medicare card. You only show this one ID card. So this program is called Medicare Advantage. Now, again, they have to name everything twice. So Part C. So if you notice Medicare Advantage, it also says Part C inside that ID card. Well, the C, think of it as the word combines. It combines everything together underneath this one card. It combines your Medicare card, your drug coverage, that kind of thing. You get a company to do this Advantage plan. So you get a Humana Advantage plan or an Aetna Advantage plan or a United Healthcare Advantage plan. They're all Advantage plans, so they all work similar. So if you notice what just popped up, a bunch, by the way, we'll go line by line. But the first thing that pops up is this thing called a network of doctors. So if you do a Humana Advantage plan, now you got to go to the Humana network of doctors. If you did a Cigna Advantage plan, you got to go to the Cigna network of doctors. It's not bad. It's just the way it works. It's just like the bus route. You got to go where the bus goes. You know? And if you've ever used a bus or public transportation, every time you use the bus, you have to pay these fees called bus fares. Well, with insurance, they don't call them bus fares. They call them copays. So with Advantage plans, you have a copay for every service. And I get that question a lot. What are my copays? Well, how much does it cost to eat at a Mexican restaurant? Same kind of question. Depends. Depends on how much you order at the Mexican restaurant. So your copays for your Advantage plans depend on how many medical services you use. If you go to a specialist, might pay $30 and your insurance pays the rest. You go to the emergency room, you pay $120, your insurance pays the rest. You go to the hospital, you pay $400 a day, each day you're there, and the insurance company pays the rest. So if you stay 4 days, it might be $1,600. That's your bus fare. That's your copay. It's not bad. And they're all outlined in a giant book. So everybody gets a book that shows their copays. Copays for x-rays, copays for MRIs, copay for CT scans. Copay. You're getting the gist of it. There's also copays for drugs. Just like before, the copays for prescriptions vary depending on the drug tier and the pharmacy I go to. So again, just like under option one, either way you go, whether you go Advantage or supplement, you're still going to have copays for prescriptions. And also, any way you go, you still got to pay for Medicare. I mean, the government's going to take their money. And the base rate for Medicare is $185. But if you still make good money, even if you jump on the bus, IRMA is going to jump on the bus with you. So even if you're on an Advantage plan, you're still going to have to pay those income related adjustments, even if you go on an Advantage plan. Because remember, the 185 and the IRMA fees are from the government. Everything else is private insurance company. Now, here's the last thing we'll talk about with Advantage, similar, is most of these Advantage plans don't cost anything. And I can easily say for these two states, Virginia and North Carolina, there is some Advantage plans in every one of those counties in both of those states that you could get a $0 Advantage plan. And people think that's weird. Like, how can I buy a Humana Advantage plan and not pay Humana anything? Or how can I buy an Anthem Advantage plan and not pay Anthem anything? Okay, it's not free. The government is subsidizing these plans pretty heavily. But see, the government, Medicare, instead of Medicare paying 80% of people's doctor bills, or instead of Medicare paying 80% of that $90,000 helicopter ride I just mentioned earlier, well, that can get kind of expensive for the government, paying 80% of people's bills. So instead of doing that, instead of paying medical bills, Medicare gives money to these Advantage plan companies, and Medicare's out. Humana has to start paying your bills, or Blue Cross and Blue Shield has to start paying your bills. Now you have copays, but that's where these insurance companies are getting the money from. They're getting the money from the government to help cover the cost of those medical expenses. So that's why I say it's like the bus, though. If you think about it, there's no monthly bus fee, there's no monthly bus payment, just like you don't have to pay anything for your Advantage plan each month. But you got to go where it goes, the network of doctors, and every time you use a Advantage plan, you pay a small fee called a copay, like bus fares. So I'm going to jump over to something that's super important. I'm going to tell you two more things, and I'm going to open it up for question and answers. But a lot of things we get is switching. What about switching between plans? Like, what about moving from option one to option two? Or what about if I moved from option two to option one? So we're going to talk about switching. We're also going to talk about dental and vision in 2 seconds, I promise. But switching is pretty important. And I'd say most people don't quite understand this. Just had this phone call with somebody earlier today. When you're new to Medicare, like you're shiny and brand new to Medicare, and that happens a couple of times in your life, you're new when you're turning 65. And when you're turning 65, both of these options are on the table. But more and more people are working past the age of 65, and they're working until they're 67 or 68 or 69 or 70, right? Well, when they're coming off of a group health plan, like you were working for a big company and you were still covered by their company insurance and you came off the company, and now you're like 67 years old and you're coming over to Medicare, well, you're considered new to Medicare at this point. And when you're new, both options are on the table. You can choose a supplement or Advantage plans. I'm not telling you which way to go first. It's not what I'm doing. We can talk about that later individually. You can call our office and we can help you. But if you decided to go with option number one in the beginning, you know, the supplement plans, the car, my silly analogies, well, you can keep your supplement your whole life. It's your supplement, it's your car, right off into the sunset. You're good to go. The problem is that supplement plans go up in price a little bit every year. And there's some people who just can't sustain those increases of costs on their supplement plans. You can always move from the supplement side of the world. Like you can always move from option one and jump onto option two later if you wanted to. Now, you don't have to jump over to option two, but you can. No problem. Option two will always take you. So, in another weird way to say it, you can go from the car and jump on the bus. Easy. The bus's door is always open to get onto it. So, you can get on Advantage later, or you can start on Medicare Advantage. So, you can start on the bus or get on the bus later. The rule, so there are some exceptions to the rule. We're not going to talk about exceptions. We're going to talk about the rule. The rule is once you go on Medicare Advantage, you're not going to be coming off Medicare Advantage. So the rule is once you're on the bus, you're kind of stuck on the bus. Now you can change seats on the bus. That's okay. That's easy. So if you're on a United Healthcare Advantage plan and want to move to Humana, well, just call us and we'll move you from United Healthcare to Humana. If you don't like Humana, we'll move you to Anthem, Blue Cross Blue Shield. So you can always move seats on the bus, but if you move from Cigna to Humana Advantage plans, well, now you just got to go to Humana doctors and pay the Humana copays. You're still on the bus, you just change seats. It's just almost impossible to get off the bus once you get on the bus. Once you get on Advantage, people just have to mentally be prepared that they're probably going to be on Advantage the rest of their life. And guys, that's what I would probably say is the biggest misnomer with Medicare is too many people think that during the annual enrollment period, they can go from Advantage and go get a supplement plan. And that's just not the case. Highly unlikely. So there's that. Now, last thing I want to talk about real quick is dental and vision, because we get that question all the time. All right. Once you leave a group insurance plan, I would not recommend vision insurance. All the plans that I've ever seen for vision insurance are not really worth the money. So I wouldn't buy it. I jokingly talk to some of our customers. I tell them, don't buy vision insurance. If you do, keep it for 2 years, do the math, and then cancel it. Because every so often, about once a year or so, we'll have somebody call and go, Bryan, this vision plan y'all sold me is terrible. It's not worth anything. And I'm like, well, you're right about one thing. It's terrible, but you're wrong about the other thing, which is we didn't do that. We didn't enroll you into it because vision insurance is not worth it. The medical conditions of your eyes are covered by Medicare, option one or option two, like cataract surgery or glaucoma screening. The only thing that's really not covered is eyeglasses. And if you can shop correctly, like you go to Costco or Warby Parker or things like that, or you go to Lens Crafters or Pearl Vision when they're running these unbelievable sales, it's better to do vision eyeglasses that way than it is to buy insurance. Dental insurance, I'm here for it. Why we don't sell dental insurance, but it's a good idea to get dental insurance. But you'd want to check with your dentist. That's the best way to do it. Check with your dentist's office, find out which insurance works best at your dentist. They'll tell you which plan, which company, and you can just call that company and buy it directly. It's easy. Like, for instance, I have Delta Dental. Me and my wife personally have Delta Dental insurance. I called my dentist in Midlothian, Virginia. I asked their office manager, who do they take? Well, that was simple because they are only taking Delta Dental, so that made my life easier. I called Delta Dental about the Delta Dental plan because that's the one place I'm only going to use it is at that dentist. It's not like medical coverage where you go to many doctors and many facilities, cardiologists and endocrinologists and podiatrists and those kind of people. Dental insurance only works at the dentist. So it's very utilitarian, like one shop kind of thing. So that's kind of like the whistle stop tour of Medicare, I would say, is you have to know, should you be signing up for Medicare at 65 or not? When you are ready for Medicare, we'll help you with all that stuff. If you have questions, then call us. You only really have two choices, option one or option two, unless you have some employer sponsored plan or state sponsored plan or military sponsored plan. That's different. So I'm going to open it back up if I can figure out how to get this thing. What happened here? Oh, yeah. Did I stop sharing?
Well, we can see your screen, but
Okay.
you don't have the PowerPoint opened up anymore.
Okay, thanks, Sean. That's weird. It still says let's do that. And then not giving me the little doodad to get out of it. How do you get out of it? Good with, oh, there it is. I found it. Sorry. Good with Medicare, terrible with technology. All right. Okay. All right. Siobhan, did that work?
Yeah, you're no longer sharing your screen.
Ooh, thank goodness. Okay. So I'm gonna, like I said, open it up for any questions, comments. Happy to answer anything you guys could possibly have relating to Medicare. You can put it in the chat box or the question and answer, unless they're all completely asleep because this is Medicare.
I'm not seeing anything come in yet.
All right. Well, Siobhan, while they type, if they want to type something, do you have any question that you want to ask or anything like that? I know you've seen this a number of about Medicare, how Medicare works, but
Yeah, I don't think I have any questions. Um,
all
but I know where to direct my husband when he hits 65 in a few years. So
right. Nice. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I think we got one. We got a
we got
question.
one. Yep.
Somebody.
So you can see it.
Yes,
Okay.
cool. I got it, Siobhan. So, one of the people asked, is IRMA based on your past year's income? Great question. And thank you for asking a question because everybody wants to ask questions. They just either can't find the question and answer box or whatever. But so, yes, the income related adjustment, known as IRMA, is based on your past tax return. Now, in true government fashion, they're always 2 years behind. So, right now, we're in 2025. So, if you were coming into Medicare right now, they're going to look at the tax return you filed from 2 years ago. So they're going to look at your 2023 tax return. The, the 2024 tax return doesn't matter. I was just having this conversation with a client this morning. He retired in 2024, but they made a bunch of money in 2023. He has actually been paying, what's 75, 74 plus 13, 87. He's been paying an extra $87 a month more than he should have. And Sally, all you have to do is fill out this government form, which we help our customers do, by the way. So if somebody's our customer, we will help them. If they're not our customer, we can't help them with this because of the government stuff. But because we don't get paid to do the government job, right, Sally? But so he's our new customer. So we just told him, hey, here's what you do. And you can turn in this form that tells the government, hey, look, government, I know we made all this money in 2023, but I had a life changing event. I retired. So don't charge me this extra money each month for the year 2025 because we're not going to make that kind of money in 25. We retired 2 years ago. So when you turn in that form, the government will actually overturn those extortionary charges and they won't charge it to you. Now, you had to do that every year for those 2 years. Like for the basically for the first 2 years you're on Medicare, you would want to file that form to let the government know not to charge you moving forward because of the income you made in the past. Right now, there are quite a number of people, you'd be surprised, but there's a lot of people who make over $106,000 in retirement for the rest of their life. There's a lot of people who make over $212,000 a year the rest of their life. They have pensions, they have social security, they have savings. Some people might have inheritances. Some people might have business. Or we had a guy who is a singer songwriter. He gets royalties off of every single time that his songs are played on the radio. He's going to have an income related adjustment for a long time because you guys would know a lot of the songs he's written, matter of fact. But you can still get it reduced. So, for instance, if some people were making $500,000 a year and then they retired and they were only going to make $250,000 a year, the first 2 years, you got to tell the government, hey, look, government, I know we made 500, but now we're only going to make 250. You're still going to pay a fee. You're still going to pay an increase, but you're going to pay the increase on a $250,000 income versus a $500,000 income. So I know that's long-winded to answer that same question, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of short-winded answers to Medicare. But hopefully that answered that question.
We do have one that came in through the chat. I don't know if you can see the chat, but someone asked, what are my options when my Advantage plan from Centera cancels/ends that plan?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, guys, Remember how I said there's exceptions to the rules of once you get on the bus, you can't get off the bus? Here's one of those exceptions. So, people who went on Advantage plans, normally you can only move from one Advantage plan to another Advantage plan, typically. Now, these Advantage plans are year to year to year to year, right? Most of these plans continue year after year after year. Like we have people on Humana plans for 17, 18 years. We have people on United Healthcare plans for 15, 16, 17 years. Well, there's a company in Virginia, it's a smaller company called Centera. It's very big in Virginia Beach and certain pockets around Virginia. But this company called Centera has an Advantage plan right now, but they are canceling all of their plans at the end of this year. So for people who have a Centera Advantage plan that's getting canceled, that's not their fault. So under no fault of their own, their plan's getting canceled. Well, by law, the Advantage plan company, in this case, Centera is required to mail out a paper, a letter that says, Dear client, your Advantage plan will no longer be offered next year. And you may use this letter as proof to purchase a Medicare supplement plan if you choose to. So for people who Advantage plan is canceling, they're basically getting kicked off the bus. And now they get to choose whether to go back on the bus or get a Medicare supplement. And if that person wants a Medicare supplement, the supplement companies have to take them no matter their medical conditions because their Advantage plan is canceling. So, Ruth, that is one of those questions and one of those exceptions. So, at this point, as long as you can get with Centera and make sure Centera sends you a non-renewing cancellation termination letter, that letter should say in that letter, you may use this letter as proof to purchase a Medicare supplement plan if you choose to, that kind of thing. And then, yes, we can help you get a new Advantage plan or get a new Medicare supplement plan, either way you want to go. Cool beans. I see that. Thanks, Ruth. Hopefully that was helpful. Oh, I think there's another Q&A. Let's see here. What else? Nope, that was the same one.
Yes, you replied to her.
Yeah.
I don't see any more questions, just those two.
All right. Well,
All right.
guys, if any questions, let us know.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and we will do this again next year.
I'm good. Thanks, Imad. Have a great day. You guys have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day.
You too, Brian. Bye.